For most of human history, the things surrounding us carried evidence of human hands. Bread was baked, blankets were quilted, toys were carved, baskets were woven, and gardens were tended. People didn't just consume the world, they participated in creating it. Welcome to Womenfolk Revival, where we are deeply rooted and wildly intentional. I'm Maggie.
And I'm Meara. And women, we're natural creators. We always have been. And I'm not just talking about making babies. I think that we create beauty, comfort, traditions for sure, and community. And we also create spaces where we feel wanted and loved, you know? If you give a woman a house, we'll turn it into a home. And the thing is, I don't even think we realize that we're doing it because that's just who we are.
It's just something that women find in themselves especially to take something that already exists and make it more beautiful, make it more welcoming or more nourishing, more meaningful. Even if it's not something, that we are creating from the ground up, we look at the world around us and we think, how can this be better for our families, for our communities?
Yeah.
You walk and help ourselves.
We can't. We can't. And I've noticed that when you walk into someone else's home, you immediately know when a woman has made it her own, with the family pictures on the wall or candle burning in the kitchen, toxin free, of course, flowers on the table, those touches aren't necessary, but that's just how we make people feel welcome. And that's a part of creation.
Yeah. Yes, it is.
Oh, you mean
what?
Oh, well, I thought you were going to say something. I just wanted to say that I've been thinking about this for a while. And I had a question, and that question was, what happens when all of our creating is for everyone else but our own? What happens when every ounce of our energy is given to taking care of the household, the kids, husband, work, laundry, appointments, and somewhere in the middle, we stop creating things that's ours and I think that happens to a lot of women. I know it happened to me, if you would have asked me years ago.
And I also think that in general, I think that women have begun to create less. And I think modern life has convinced women that, that creating really only matters if someone's buying it, like, how do we turn this into a job? Like, we can't just create just for the joy of creating,
Right. Yeah, I mean, if you would have asked me years ago what I did just because I enjoyed it, I honestly don't know what I would have said. I wouldn't have had anything because, everything has a purpose. If I was cooking, it was because everyone needed to eat. Or if I was cleaning, it was because, the house needed to be clean, and working because the bills needed to be paid. And everything was always for someone else. And don't get me wrong, I love taking care of my family. But somewhere along the way, I lost track of what brought me joy, having these kids back to back and in my 40s and in perimenopause. And, your body doesn't get back on track until 2 years after you have, the one child. And it was just like one after the next. And then my husband moved here and it was a lot. And then this podcast happened. And I don't even know if I thought of it as a hobby in the beginning. I thought of it as wanting to help other people, right? Alongside of what we were doing. And I was able to leave the room for a little bit, and I got to spend time with my best friend, and we laughed and we cried and we had conversations that really mattered, and
cried way too much.
More than laugh, probably. And we've met other women, whose stories have challenged us and encouraged us. And then, like, little by little over time, something changed, and I started looking forward to every week doing the podcast. Granted, life isn't crazy and you just had to, wing it sometimes. But
Right.
not because this feels like work, because it doesn't. It just filled me back up. And I realized that it wasn't just a podcast, it was bringing me back to myself.
I love that.
That's how it made me feel, because I remember years ago I used to feel like this, and I rediscovered myself.
Yeah, that's something, luckily for me, that's something that's always been very strong inside of myself. I am, ever since I was little, I was, I was creating. I'm an artist, and I just have to do it. I have, since the kids and some other things that happened in my life, I stopped painting for a long time. Um and no matter what I do, no matter if I'm in the garden or if I'm making some kind of herbal something, or I'm making jewelry, or doing some kind of craft with my child, or pressing flowers, because I do that pretty often also. Nothing, as much as I love those things and they do bring me joy, nothing speaks to me more than painting. And all I want to do is paint, but I just don't really, I guess realistically, I have the time, but I don't have uninterrupted time. And I want to lose myself in what I'm doing. So how do we get that back, Meara? Wait until we're old. Old and
No,
gray.
we're not going to wait till we're old, because when we first started doing this and you were drawing the picture for Womenfolk Revival, it like brought back so much life in you. Now, it wasn't painting, but you were able to set aside some time because you wanted it to happen. And when you want it to happen so bad, you will automatically set some time aside, if you know that it brings you joy. And for me, when I find something like that, I just have to get over the guilt of my kids screaming in the background for an hour. I mean, they can deal without me for an hour. Like, really, I'm home with them all day, right? It's just overcoming that with kids, overcoming that guilt. Now, maybe if you don't have kids, it's overcoming that guilt of not working and, stepping away from your job, or taking care of your family member who's elderly, but we have to learn how to release that guilt. And for me, it's not easy, because I do have 5 kids at home that need me constantly. But my husband actually taught me how to lose that guilt. And he was just like, you just have to let it go. It's going to harm you. You have to let it go. And I was like, okay, as long as I'm doing something I like, I know they're in the background, I know they're being taken care of. Why do you feel this way? It's only an hour. And so I've learned how to get over that. And even when we're done doing our podcast, if it's still quiet, I'll just, spend an extra 5 minutes by myself in here sipping on my coffee. Let go of some of that guilt. Now, if we go out to dinner, he and I, then I'll feel a bit more guilty and not really fully feel immersed in enjoying myself. And I think that'll slowly die down as, as they get older and they're able to take care of themselves more. But at least we were still able to get out.
Yeah, I don't feel guilty. I don't feel guilty in that sense, because I take my kids over to my parents, and they love going to my parents, and my parents love having them. So, that's a really beautiful thing, and I know that they're safe, and but I just don't like being away from them. And I know that's a totally different thing, and I have some I don't know, I guess maybe attachment issues with that, but I do. It just feels very unnatural for me not to be with them. So even,
I think that's the guilt for me.
Like I was speaking on painting, I don't even know that if I got like an entire day, if I could sit there and if I could even lose myself anymore, because I would just be thinking about my kids the entire time. And I think the more I'm saying this now, I think we just need to find a way for both to coexist, to try and, combine the worlds of, what it is that feeds our soul that isn't a part of being a mother, because we're more than just moms.
Yeah. Yeah, we are. And I think that'll take time because I'm exactly the same as you. I mean, we all still co-sleep together and our kids are still in our room, even if with the ones we're not co-sleeping with, not the elders, but the other two. But, um, I get what you're saying. We do have to find a way to coexist because like they're taken care of for me and I'm still thinking about them like, wonder
Yeah.
what's going on. So, and with that being said, um, as far as getting back to who I was, I don't want people to think, get back to who you were before you became a wife or a mom or a caregiver. Um, just getting back to that part of you that has been quiet for so long, because this
Yeah.
part of me, um, that I was missing, I had felt like you had known all your life. I had known all my life who I was in high school, believe it or not, with that quiet part and wanting to live slow and be slow. And it felt amazing when I was able to apply those things when I was younger. And I knew that that's who I was. And it wasn't a hobby, it was my lifestyle. But with society and, living all my whole life all the way up until now, I just got lost. And so back to that
Mm-hmm.
quiet place of who I was, the part that loves the learning and encouraging people and having conversations that matter and remembers that there's more to life than just checking things off of a bucket list. And I
Yeah.
wonder how many of us women are feeling the same way because maybe you spent so many years taking care of everybody else that if someone asks, what do you enjoy doing? You really have to stop and think. And that's okay. You're not alone because a lot of us, I think, are still in the process of getting there.
I think another thing is that, we do talk about, decorating our homes and creating
Mm-hmm.
that atmosphere.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Everything is so readily available now, and
It is.
things are mass produced.
Yeah.
It very little is made by hand anymore, and when it is, it's just so darn expensive. You feel guilty buying it,
I have an
and
example of that.
we're
Go ahead.
so it's so quick just to go to Amazon and buy
Click.
something instead of maybe
Yeah.
just making something. And it doesn't have to be perfect,
Yeah.
but something that is made by you for your home is
Mm-hmm.
going to be so much more meaningful than just buying something that looks nice.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like that is something that we have lost, is that joy of, I needed this and I made this.
Mm-hmm.
That, and it carries memories. And that's something, when we're dead and gone, our kids are going to look around and be like, well, what's meaningful and what isn't? And
Mm-hmm.
99% of our homes now are not meaningful.
They're not. They're not.
There's
You
like
know,
nothing special
uh,
anymore.
there's not. It's funny you mentioned that because actually just last week I was talking to my husband. I said, oh my gosh, this is perfect. I just came up with the idea. I want a piece of driftwood. I want to hang it and I want to put pins in there and I want to be able to hang my herbs to dry in
Yeah.
my office. And he was like, okay. And so I went online and I was looking and I was like, oh my gosh, this driftwood is so beautiful. And I'm like, $350 for a piece of driftwood? I'm like, no, wait a minute.
Nuts.
I said, I've
Nuts.
been wanting to take a trip up to Northern Ohio, where I was born. And I know there's so much driftwood on those beaches up in the Great Lakes. I said to my husband, we should just drive up there and make it a family trip for like one day and stay the night and just pick out a bunch of driftwood and let it dry and do the whole processing and make it our own. And he's like, okay, but obviously we're not going to do that for a while because we have so much going on in our lives right now.
Right.
But maybe when things settle in the next couple of weeks, um, towards the end of August, I hope. But it's funny you mention that because then I'm like, oh my gosh, it'll have so many memories. The kids will be a part of this. And I just thought it
I
was a good
I
idea.
have a tree limb hanging in my kitchen, and that's what
Mm-hmm.
I hang my herbs on. And we hang our cheesecloth there to dry and our coffee filters there to dry, and it's great.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just my husband was cutting wood, and I went to talk to him and I saw it and I'm like, this has got, great movement to it. I love the
Mm-hmm.
length. I'm like, could I have this? What do you want to do with it? I want to hang it in the kitchen.
Yeah. He
I was
didn't
like,
get the
just wait,
idea
it'll be
first. So.
beautiful.
He didn't see the
He likes
vision.
it. He does.
Yeah.
And, and he's brought me home pieces of wood before. So we had
Yeah.
this huge, like, I don't know, probably 6-foot tree limb in our house at one point. When we moved
Oh, wow.
here, it was outside for a long time and we couldn't just bring it back in. But, that's kind of normal for our
Seems normal to
house.
me.
But it can be as simple as that, walking out
Mm-hmm.
in nature and finding something that speaks to you and finding a purpose for it, you
Yeah.
know? Like,
Yeah, I
obviously,
think
it's not connected to the tree anymore, so I could leave it here to decay, and that's great because,
right.
that's needed, but we have that everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
But now I've got something, and it's even though I didn't make it, I saw it and
You
it
brought
spoke
it
to
in.
me, and it has meaning, and it's lovely.
Yeah. I think sometimes we put so much pressure on ourselves to find this big passion or purpose. And I don't think it needs to be that deep. I think maybe it's just doing something that makes you smile, like spending an hour in the garden or reading a book, um,
Yeah.
learning something new, or finally trying that thing you've been saying that you're going to do someday, like getting back to painting.
Mm.
Um, I don't really think I think what matters is that somewhere in our week, there's something that's just ours. And we've forgotten that not everything has to make money or be a side hustle. It
Right.
just it needs to be enough to bring you that peace. And sometimes it's enough that it reminds you of who you are as a person. That's
Right.
that's the big part for me.
And that I definitely have. I have wanted, so I do make a lot of jewelry, and I make all kinds of stuff. I just do that all the time. And I have always wanted to turn it into a business, but it's never really, something's always been holding me back in a way. And, my husband was always saying, it doesn't need to be perfect, and you want it to be perfect, but it doesn't have to be to start out. And I'm over that now. But like I told you, when I do have this up and going, I don't want it to become a huge thing. I want it to be small and
Mm-hmm.
steady, and I want to be able to live my slow life and put intention into everything that I do. And
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to be stressed out about it.
Yeah.
That's not what I'm looking for. I like to create, and if I can make money for my family and share something with somebody else that they have, get joy from or get help from, then that's wonderful. But I absolutely, this whole idea of having this huge business that, makes so much money, I'm not into that. I don't want that.
So I guess my question for you is, are you scared because you're scared it might turn into something like that and then you're expected to do more than what you're wanting to do? Because you're in control of it all.
I
Small
I am in
batches.
control of it all. I am. I'm not, yeah, I don't know, Mira.
Just got to get out there and get started. And it's very scary. And I do know that, people have a lot of expectation. Well, why aren't you making this much? You should make more and you should do more. And there's that society again. Well, you have to do this and you
Yeah.
need to do that. And you just have to know that this isn't what I'm doing. This isn't what I was meant or made to do. And therefore, I'm going to do things in small batches. Like with mine, I'm going to do
Mm-hmm.
small batches. And when it's sold out, it's sold out. Um, I too don't want to live that life where I'm stressed and I have to put in a million orders. Like everything is made with intention on my end of what I do. And if it sells, great. If I have the ability to do more than usual, that's great. But I too am not going to let it stress me out. Like I can't.
Mm-hmm.
I was going to open my store in August, not realizing it was almost August.
It's
And now
almost
because
August
we
already.
have so many new amazing things happening in our life, I'm actually putting it off till next year because that's not the most important thing for me right now. Family is. So you just have to
Yeah.
learn when to be able to shut it off. Just like that guilt with the kids. Just gotta learn how to shut it off. It'll still
You know
creep
what
up there
I
a
think
little.
we're missing too is what we've talked about so many times is just that community. How
Hmm.
many how many women used to get together and have like a quilting circle,
Mhm.
or get together and shell beans or can, or, do these things together. So where, you're creating something, but you're also doing it with a community and having that connection, and then the kids are playing with, the other kids, and they're having a great time. And man, I just so dislike where society has taken us. I so dislike it.
I do too. And we have talked so much this season about slowing down and listening to our bodies and building that community. And I actually think that this fits right into this conversation, because when we slow down, that's when we finally have the room and the chance to be able to start creating again, not because
Mhm.
somebody needs us to, but because we need that space to. And so maybe that's the challenge this week. Think back for a minute. What did you love doing before life got so busy? Before everyone needed something from you, and before your day became a schedule? Like, what made you happy? Maybe it's time to try this again. Not because you're trying to become the best or an overperformer and outperform someone else, or because it's a trend, or because you're trying to make money from it, but look at it as it reminding you that you are still in there. You're still in
Mhm.
there somewhere, and you deserve that.
I wanna and I just wanna say, and try and remember
Mm-hmm.
that we were not made to consume. We were made
Mm-hmm.
to create. Our creator created us in his image, and look at
Yeah.
his creation. And we're like not even hardly even living in it and appreciating it. We're living in the world that, you know, man created. And there's
Mm-hmm.
great things about that, but there's a lot of really awful things about it. And I think most people are finally starting to wake up to that. Um, but just remember, we were meant to create, not to consume,
We were.
but to create.
And somewhere along the way, a lot of us started believing that taking care of ourselves had to come after everything else, after the dishes, laundry, and everyone else's needs being met. But what if the thing you've been missing isn't more time? What if it's permission? Permission to plant the flowers, permission to read the book, to paint, to bake, not because it needs to become something bigger, but simply because it brings you joy. And I think we forget we're allowed to do all these things because they make us feel alive. Um, I don't think the goal is to become a woman who has everything figured out. I think the goal
Hmm.
is to stay connected to who you already are as that woman.
Yeah.
That's the goal. Yeah.
Yeah. That wifehood and motherhood is an addition to who you are. It doesn't replace
Mhm.
who you were.
Yes, it's an extension. So every time you sit down to build, plant, or bake or create something with your own hands, you give yourself a quiet reminder. You aren't just here to pass through the world or manage a household. You're here to participate in it. So this week, we invite you to do
Hmm.
one thing that's just for you, not out of selfishness, but out of love for the woman our creator made you to be. I'm not going to do it.
Oh,
Because you're worth knowing, not just serving. Because there's a beautiful part of you that deserves to be remembered. So keep choosing a slower path. Keep showing up as yourself. And remember, sometimes finding yourself again starts with creating something that belongs to you. Is there anything else that you are wanting to add?
there was, but it left
Aw,
me when you started tearing up, because I started
I'm sorry.
tearing up. And
Deterring.
um leave something to be remembered by,
Yeah.
you know, when we're gone and our kids are
Yeah.
gone. Maybe there's something that gets passed down, or maybe some, stranger ends up coming across it and says, this is handmade. Someone,
Hmm.
part of someone's soul is in this because
Yeah.
they created it. That is a beautiful thing. I love handmade things. I love finding, you know, little treasures like that have a story, that have a background.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Our
leave your mark.
our legacy for our children is not money left behind or houses left behind. For us, it's teaching them how to live off the land and live with intention and
Mm-hmm.
learn how to identify plants and being able to, just be in that moment. So if today's conversation encouraged you, be sure to subscribe and follow along on your favorite podcast app and join us over on our Womenfolk Revival Facebook community page. We would love to have you be a part of our growing village. Do we know what next week's episode is? Or is it going to be a surprise?
Oh no, we know what next week's episode is.
We do?
And it was something that I quickly spoke about today, is the fact that we don't live in our creator's world and we don't respect our creator's world because we're more worried about progression and what happens in society than what happens to nature and the very world that God created.
Okay. I don't know if
And
I
I
can
am
come up with a title for
I'm very passionate about it. Very passionate.
Society's World and versus Creator's World. On next week's episode, we would love to have you be a part of our village. So until then,
Stay rooted and stay wild.
stay wild.